The dopamine reward system is a group of structures that are activated when we have a rewarding experience. When the brain is exposed to rewarding stimuli, it reacts by increasing its output of the neurotransmitter dopamine. The structure that makes up the brain's reward system are found along the major dopamine pathways. The mesolimbic dopamine pathway is the pathway that is most associated with reward. It starts in an area of the brainstem called the ventral tegmental area. The ventral tegmental area is one of the main areas of the brain responsible for the production of dopamine. Dopamine neurons are activated in the ventral tegmental area whenever we perform a rewarding task. Once the dopamine neurons are active, the dopamine levels in the accumbens will increase significantly. The Mesocortical Pathway is another major dopamine pathway. The Mesocortical Pathway also starts in the ventral tegmental area, but it goes on to enter the cerebral cortex, traveling straight to the frontal lobes. This pathway also gets activated during a rewarding experience, so it is part of the reward system. Though dopamine is released during moments of pleasure, it does not cause pleasure. Not really. Recent findings suggest that pleasure and dopamine activity do not always correlate. This is because dopamine neurons are activated and released before the reward and pleasure have been experienced. This has caused there to be a general understanding that the creation of pleasure is not the primary purpose of dopamine. Dopamine has other duties, such as determining the importance of external stimuli and associating it with the accurate level of motivation and reward. With that being said, the mesolimbic dopamine pathway is activated whenever a person experiences something rewarding, so the link between dopamine and reward is undeniable. The brain structures involved in mediating reward are part of a large and complex network that involves other neurotransmitters and regions of the brain. It seems then that dopamine activity is not increased because of the experience of a reward, but rather in hopes of getting a reward. Well, the brain's reward system interacts with parts of the brain that are in charge of our ability to perform actions, areas such as the prefrontal cortex, which enables us to make plans and act on them, and keep our impulses under control. The executive part of our brain, located in the prefrontal cortex, is engaged whenever we have a rewarding experience. What this means is that whenever we have a rewarding experience, our brain records the pleasant memories and increases the motivation to have that experience again. This makes it so the next time you come across that stimuli or anything strongly related to that stimuli, you are more likely to take the set of steps that will lead to a recreation of the initial experience. The more the actions are repeated, the stronger the motivation will be to repeat them. So what does this have to do with sugar? Sugar is extremely unhealthy for us when consumed in high amounts. It can lead to type 2 diabetes, weight gain, dental decay, or obesity. However, candy, cooking, soda, and ice cream are really difficult to resist. What is it about sugar that is so irresistible, almost addictive? The human body needs glucose to run, and glucose, which is really sweet, fuels the cells in our body, including neurons. From an evolutionary perspective, we evolved to find pleasure in foods that have high sugar content, since they are great sources of energy. When we eat foods that are sweet, the mesolimbic dopamine system is activated. So every time we eat sugary foods, we are reinforcing the pleasurable experience of eating sugar and the set of actions that will lead us to repeat that action. This is why we find that a lot of people are unable to stay away from sugar for long. Due to a process called Neuroplasticity, where the brain remodels and rewires itself, the brain changes so that we can find more effective ways to keep consuming sugar, and in an environment where sugary foods are abundant and usually very affordable, we can feed this impulse and continue to change the brain until sugar is more than a craving and now an unhealthy lifestyle.